Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Shout out to the 19. Real quick, because I've seen the question asked a lot now, especially since that shirt is available. The 19. Last season, I did a I talked about Angel Reese's agility on Twitter. I talked about it from a trainer's perspective. It's something that I've done. It's helped people become more explosive, more agile, and so forth. For example, real quick, I had a college keeper that I worked with that, she had trouble with the high ball. In 12 weeks, we got her vertical from 10.5 inches to 19.25 inches, about, 70, 80% increase, almost doubled her vertical. So I looked at it as a perspective from someone who works with athletes. And I talked about how Angel Reese is a little awkward in her movement. She's not a very agile basketball player. Had someone come in and say they wish they could meet me in person so they could punch me in the face. Then they came back and said the only people who watch my videos are my 19 cousins. So I shortened that to the 19, and that is simply a shorthand shout out to all of you who support the channel by liking, subscribing, all that stuff. If you haven't done that yet, do it right now. Let's go. We are going to talk a little bit about the officiating and the real concern of what this is doing to Caitlin Clark and the Fever, to be fair, overall. But in terms of Caitlin Clark, what it's doing to her productivity, but also the wear and tear that it takes on her, the possible injuries that it may cause, and how corrupt this league truly is when it comes to what they are doing to Caitlin Clark. For example, let's just take a quick look at some of these things that you can see here. And the kinds of calls that the Fever get, or should I say, don't get, or go against them. But we can see, yeah, that was called a foul. We'll run it back. You can see, um, by the way, shout out to fan Caitlin Clark on TikTok for putting this together. Yep, that was a foul. That was called on Lexi Hull. Can you believe that that is a foul called on Natasha Howard? Yes, that's right. Someone else comes out of control and jumps into her. Yeah, they called this on Aaliyah Boston. Shocking, shocking. The face who drew 100,000 viewers in a game recently. Lower than unrivaled. Absolutely wild. But you can see the problem. Again, foul called on Caitlin Clark there, even though there is no contact. She's going straight up. No contact there at all. But they call a foul on Caitlin Clark. And yes, another one on Aaliyah Boston. And so you can see the problem that the Fever have by having Caitlin Clark on the team. It becomes a real difficult. The Fever basically. Let me put it this way. Now, I haven't dug into the numbers. It would take a lot of time and effort to figure out, to try and actually come up with a real number. But I think it's clear that the Indiana Fever start every game down a certain number of points. But even more importantly, the problem that we have with stuff like this, and I've showed it before, that's JC Sheldon in that Connecticut Sun game, who, by the way, as you know, has some serious fingernails as well. But she is grabbing Caitlin Clark's arm, not grabbing around the arm, grabbing like digging in and trying to take a chunk out of her arm, which hurts, by the way. Now think about that happening to you all game, every game, and what that does not only to your ability as a player, but to you physically, right? We have this great example. This was not called. And the reason this was cropped, they said, because it doesn't matter who's doing it. That's not the point. I think this was the Aces game, but that's not called, folks. Look at that. You've got the arm inside. You've got a complete hold around Caitlin Clark's wrist. For those people who like to talk about, oh, her handles aren't that good. Excuse me, how is Caitlin Clark supposed to go by somebody? Or in this case, how is she also supposed to make a move, maybe to go between the legs or to spin around and go to the right hand? How can she do that when the player on the opposing team literally has her in a wrist lock? Now, with this, I'm not going to go through the whole video, but I want to show you the first one because, again, this was not called. This was in the Seattle game. This is not called, folks. This is why it is so difficult for Caitlin to get to the basket and to create plays. No foul called on that. Now, that's a moving pick, but I believe they called that on Kelsey Mitchell, as you can see the hand going up. So, yeah, on and on and on. That is the type of thing that's happening. And we do have people speaking out and saying, hey, this has to stop, talking about the WNBA in general, but also specifically to Caitlin Clark. And this is Debbie Antonelli talking about the physicality and the officiating in the WNBA, talking specifically about Caitlin Clark as well.
How surprised are you that it's still going on in her second year?
Well, this is what I would say, guys. For me, I think the physicality in the game is in three areas: in the post, on the glass, and at the point of screening. The rest of it needs to be cleaned up. I want to see the offense make the defense wrong. That means we can showcase our product at the highest level with the best skilled basketball players in the world on the women's side. And if we're allowed to clutch and grab and push and shove, and there's one thing called bump the cutter that used to be back in the day, like freedom of movement is a real thing. Jumping to the ball on defense is also a skill. And Caitlin has had her fair share of knocks. There's no question about it. But also at the same time, she is at the top of the scouting report. And if you want to win the game, it's important that you limit what she can do. You take away her vision, you're physical with her when she's off the ball. You do all those things, and there's a certain line. And if the referees don't take care of managing that line, then players are going to cross the line. You guys know you're going to try to do whatever you can to get away with as much as you can until it's called out, and that means the whistle has to blow. And from Indiana's standpoint, she's been taking quite a beating. Now, in our day, and your day too, it's code to talk about things that you might do. Maybe, if a teammate was or an opponent was giving me a hard time, one of my post players might set a hard screen. You did things like that, but you certainly didn't talk about it. You just did it. And I think there's been too much chatter about it, and I do think it needs to be cleaned up. I'm an opponent of offense, as you guys know, and I want to see the game be entertaining and played at the highest level. And that means we have to have the ability to showcase our offensive skill set. And Caitlin has one of the best offensive skill sets.
I think Debbie summed it up really, really well, talking about a few things. First, she talked about freedom of movement, which, as I just showed you, Caitlin Clark has no freedom of movement. To say that that does not impact her productivity, that does not impact the results that she gets on the court is absolutely insane. No one else deals with this like Caitlin Clark deals with this, and it must change. The officials, she talked about the officials cleaning things up and keeping control of this. It is the opposite of that. They obviously actively encourage, they don't have to say anything, but based on their whistle or their non-whistle, they encourage this type of physicality. I won't even say physicality. These are fouls. These fouls against Caitlin Clark to hinder her game and to keep her from doing what she can do. Because, as Debbie said at the end, she has a skill set that no other player in the league has ever had. And that has been one of the problems with the WNBA in general, that has clearly taken to another level and is targeting Caitlin Clark. And that is limiting what we see with the skill set. She talked about the offense, having the offense make players, make defenders be wrong. And we don't see that in the WNBA because they cover up for lack of skill. And clearly, and two other quick things I want to talk about with this that are really important. She mentioned if the opponent's giving you a hard time in terms of the physicality and what we've seen with Caitlin Clark, not just like the Marina Mabrey stuff, but the JC Sheldon stuff, right? The holding, the clutching, the grabbing, the smacking her in the head and all that, and the stuff that doesn't get called. And as Debbie mentioned, and like she said, didn't talk about it, you would have one of your bigs set a hard screen and run that player into a screen, which I had mentioned before. The Fever never do that stuff for Caitlin Clark. They are not enforcing protecting Caitlin Clark, and that is a problem. That is a problem for this team. That is a problem for the locker room. And last thing I want to talk about that I think is really important, especially now as Caitlin Clark sits out with a second injury, an injury that they say is day to day, but could be one of those injuries that 2 or 3 months from now, she's still sitting out. You just don't know. We don't know the severity of it. We don't know if it's one of those things where there's a misdiagnosis too, right? It's like, oh, not the MRI doesn't show anything, but 2 weeks from now, Caitlin's still feeling pain. They do another MRI and they see something that they missed previously, and it's more serious, and she's out. But I will also tell you this: I promise you, Caitlin Clark's career, well, one, it will be less exciting to watch, and it'll fall short in terms of the numbers and things that she produces if this doesn't change, but it will also be shortened. I promise you, if this continues, if this is allowed to continue, Caitlin Clark's career will be shortened because your body can only take so much. There are running backs, great examples. Of course, now I can't think of names, but one my dad used to tell me about. I didn't really get to watch because I was too young, but his career was short. Was Earl Campbell? Earl Campbell was one of those punishing running backs, right? Big guy. He's not going to run around you. He's going to run over you. And so he's going to hit you just as hard or as often as he's going to get hit. He didn't avoid hits. One of the running backs that would he's not going to run out of bounds. That he's going to run you over for another yard. Those types of running backs, that wear and tear shortens their career. Earl Campbell's career was shortened, and he had a lot of problems after his career was over. So please don't doubt that type of physicality over time, it builds and builds. You get players that become more susceptible to injury and so forth, and the career is shortened. Caitlin Clark could, we've got the thigh injury, we've got the groin injury. She could lose her explosiveness, she could lose her hops, which obviously makes a difference in her game, and it could just simply shorten her career. Little injuries over time, not even injuries, things that keep her out of games, but just that wear and tear on the body. Right? There's a reason, on average, football players' careers are shorter than baseball players. Right. So it is really interesting. And I think good to see Debbie speak out on this. Hopefully we hear more and more voices speak out on this type of thing and we actually get it changed, because the WNBA is just destroying itself by allowing this to happen to Caitlin Clark over and over and over again. And they better figure it out fast with the new CBA, or they're going to have themselves some problems. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, appreciate you so much checking out this video. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Go have the day you deserve, and I will talk to you later.